Good morning, Western Washington, and happy Tuesday. I'm Matthew Fab with Western Washington Weather, and today we're going to take a look at the forecast for the next few days, including the return of active weather, and then we're going to take an in-depth look at the extended forecast with the uncertainty over Arctic air and lowland snow. We're going to take a look at that toward the second half of this video. So starting here with the satellite imagery, you can see nighttime satellite imagery here. We got some high clouds moving south toward western Washington, and we have some areas of fog across the area. We have fog across the Kitsap Peninsula, southwest interior there, parts of Tacoma, Pierce County, and then some areas of fog around Whidbey Island and the Strait, in addition to a lot of fog in some of the river valleys of northern parts of eastern Washington. Taking a look at temperatures at this hour, you can see we're pretty chilly. We got lows around 21 in Bellingham, 18 in Arlington, 30 in Everett, 27 in Seattle, 21 in JBLM, 19 in Olympia and Shelton, and even near freezing along the coast, including 23 at Quileute Airport. And also just want to take a look at this. Winthrop and Twisp there in the Methow River Valley, deep valley there in eastern Washington, allows that cold air to really sink down. It got down to -2 degrees at the Methow Valley Airport in Twisp there overnight, so that's pretty interesting. You can see if we zoom into some of the Puget Sound here, that some of the areas outlying from the metro area got down into the low 20s, and even places like Federal Way and SeaTac and parts of North Seattle got into the mid-20s. So another pretty chilly morning out there, and we'll take a look at that pattern in a moment, but let's start here with the overall forecast we're looking at here. European model, you can see we remain dry through today and into Wednesday. And then as we go into Thursday, you get this rain starting to move into the area. By Thursday night, we may have some light rain across western Washington as this frontal system moves in. By Friday morning, rain is steady across western Washington. Mountain snow has begun. Heavy mountain snow, heavy rain at times, continue all the way through the day Friday, picking up again into Friday evening before that snow starts to taper and turn showery by Saturday morning. You notice an atmospheric river moving into northern California and southern Oregon. And then as we move off into the extended forecast here toward Sunday, we start to get into some of that uncertainty. You can see there's some, with cold air behind that frontal system, we have precipitation still moving in the area, which means there is some uncertain chances for snow. You can see as that atmospheric river pivots inland across southern Oregon there, it starts to spread some cold precipitation up across western Washington. With this cold temperatures in place, this could potentially bring some lowland snow. However, you can see even with future systems that there is snow potential all the way out through Thursday and Friday of next week, but this is quite uncertain based on a variety of different factors, which we'll talk about in a moment here. Let's take a look real quick at what we're expecting for the next couple of days here. Temperature-wise, you can see national blend of models. Today, we're likely going to be in the mid to upper 40s. You can see same thing there on Wednesday. Start to cool down a bit with those clouds and that system moving in on Thursday with highs only in the low to mid 40s there. And then on Friday with all the heavy rain and some warmer air moving into the area, you got highs in the upper 40s to low 50s. But then we crash back down after the frontal system moves through with highs barely reaching the low 40s across western Washington. And then with that uncertainty over Arctic air, you can see Sunday and Monday, highs are not very warm, only in the mid to upper 30s. Take a look at places around Whatcom County, highs only in the low 30s. This is something to watch with that potential snow. The lower the highs, the better your chance is for snow. So we'll take a look at that in a moment as well. And taking a look at low temperatures here on the national blend of models, let me zoom in to western Washington here. You can see Wednesday morning, very similar to this morning, a tad bit warmer. We're still going to have lows in the mid-20s for most areas outside of the metro. Even Seattle likely in the upper 20s to low 30s. And then you can see areas from Seattle southward towards Shelton and Olympia and Tacoma. Lows in the mid-20s, some areas in the low 20s in outlying places as well. And by the time we get to Thursday morning, we start to warm up a little bit more. You can see lows in the upper 20s to low 30s from Seattle southward, and then from Seattle northward, lows in the low to mid 30s, closer to the mid 30s near the water there. By the time we get to Friday with that system moving through, you can see the lows have increased dramatically to some of our warmest overnight lows in a long time, with lows in the mid 30s to low 40s. But then behind the frontal system, we start to crash back down again. You can see Saturday morning lows in the mid-30s there. However, some areas around Snohomish County could be a little bit chillier than that, which could promote some interesting dynamics with the convergence zone that could potentially bring some areas of brief snow. And then as we go into Sunday and Monday there, you can see we start to cool back down a lot with some of that cold Arctic air potentially moving into the area. Lows back into the low to mid-20s across western Washington, all increasing that potential for snow. That potential is there going into Tuesday of next week as well. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the system moving in. This is total rain through Sunday afternoon, or Sunday evening, I should say there. And you can see we're going to get some nice rain totals. It'll be nice to get back to a rainier pattern here just for a couple of days there. You can see most of the lowlands getting 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches. See that signature of that convergence zone? That's going to play a factor here in a moment. We'll take a look at that across Snohomish County there. And you can see areas out on the coast that have been pretty dry the last few weeks getting 1.5 to 2 inches of rain. So that is a good thing to see. Taking a look at total snow through Sunday, you can see there's that signature of that convergence zone across parts of Snohomish County, maybe parts of the northern Olympic Peninsula as well, and some of the I-5 corridor up toward Bellingham and Mount Vernon. Could be getting a little bit of snow with some of this convergence zone banding and some colder temperatures. But the big thing to look at here is the mountains. You can see Snoqualmie Pass, Stevens Pass, White Pass getting anywhere from 17 to 20 inches of snow through Sunday night. So it's been pretty smooth sailing across the mountains for the last few weeks, but this is going to change pretty quickly, especially Thursday night into Friday and into Saturday. And you can see over a foot of snow, nearly 1.5 feet of snow in just a couple of days. So there will definitely be some travel impacts across the passes, especially Friday and Saturday. And then also we're going to have some wind with this system here. You can see on the coast gusts 35 to 50 miles per hour, especially around Long Beach. They're near 50 miles per hour. In the lowlands, gusts of 30 to 40 miles an hour, maybe 40 near Olympia there and Everett. And then you can see along Whidbey Island, there are parts of the strait, gusts 35 to 45 miles per hour. So this will be nice to clear out some of that stagnant air we've had over the past couple of weeks. So now let's take a look at that convergence zone behind the front on Saturday here. So here's Saturday morning's temperatures, but as we go through the day here, you can see we stay a little bit chilly around the convergence zone, and as we go into the evening, those temperatures drop pretty close to freezing. By the time we get to about 10 p.m., you've got temperatures near 32, 33 degrees around Everett and Arlington and stuff like that, and points north as well. And when we take a look at the simulated radar here, as we go in to the morning there, you can see some potential snow showing up at some lower elevations that continues during the day there and into the evening. So there is a chance for some brief accumulating snow across any areas that the convergence zone sets up over the North Sound there. Your best chances for that are going to be on some higher hills Sunday or Saturday, especially afternoon and evening. So we'll see how that plays out over the next couple days. You can see that potential continuing through Sunday there with any showers that are around with these temperatures below freezing Sunday morning that could bring there. You can see that convergence zone showing up with some potential snow. This will be able to be forecasted in a lot more detail once the high resolution models come into focus over the next couple of days. So stay tuned for more on that. So now what we're going to take a look at is just that overall probability for snow. So this is the European model Ensemble, and you can see this is highlighting that potential convergence zone Saturday night into Sunday here at Everett. This is looking at Payne Field Airport there. You can see some of the Ensemble members are picking up on that, and then the overall trend then is towards some potential snow into the extended forecast. We can take a look at that same forecast there for Bellingham. You can see it doesn't really pick up on the convergence zone too much, but with some cold air trapped up in Whatcom County, it does pick up on some snow potentially Sunday into Monday there. And you can see overall the confidence for snow is a lot higher in Bellingham than it is in Everett there. And now let's compare that to SeaTac Airport there. You can see much lower confidence for snow versus Bellingham, lower amounts as well, but most Ensemble members do show some snow for SeaTac Airport, which would include the Seattle metro area. And even if it's just a couple inches, that can still cause disruptions across the region. So you can see a decent showing on the Ensembles there with some relatively decent confidence for at least some lowland snow, but again, we're pretty far out to see if that's even going to happen. So let's take a look at that pattern here. You can see the European model. I put this out to Sunday night as that polar lobe that moves off the polar vortex moves down through Alaska. It's offshore there, and if we take a look at the extended forecast here, you can see how it moves offshore and just kind of stays offshore for a couple of days there before moving inland. That is not the most optimal pattern for lowland snow. Usually you want that polar lobe to just barely sneak offshore, then come back in, not stay offshore for a couple of days, because that allows it to moderate and get warmer, and then that warmer air brings a mix of rain and snow, or a very marginal snow event, versus a more sure forecast when you have just a good setup for a polar lobe. They're moving offshore, then right back inland with the cold air and precipitation combo just perfect. So now let's take a look at the GFS model. You can see it shows a similar thing, polar lobe offshore, and it kind of just sits there offshore for a few days next week, and then the GFS has it pull back inland. So you can see there's decent agreement on that, but there's still some very minute things that are changing with each run of the forecast models that do have an impact on how much snow or snow potential there is. So now let's take a look here at the European model Ensemble versus the European model Control Run. This is all 50 members of the Ensemble, like we looked at in that graph a minute ago there for the different airports, and this is the Control Run, which is the initial conditions best we know them. This is each initial condition manipulated a little bit into 50 different forecasts, and we take an average of it. So you can see on the Control Run here, it is much more spotty for snow, showing very little over parts of Seattle, and then highlighting some Convergence Zone and some areas of higher snow accumulation potentially around Whatcom County and parts of Skagit and Snohomish County, parts of the Olympic Peninsula, and then southward through parts of Tacoma and Olympia, and south through Portland there. And you can see there were some of the east winds with an Arctic setup could impact some of the snow around Portland and eat it up a little bit. And then you can see on the Ensemble mean here that some of the snow is a little bit dialed back, but you get a bit more of an average where it shows snow over most of the area. So you're seeing that the Control Run is a little bit warmer than the other forecasts in this scenario. However, this is just showing that there's a lot of uncertainty. I put this to about 10 days out here, to about Friday or late Thursday afternoon of next week, and you can see that there is still definitely some uncertainty for snow, not just across western Washington, but also eastern Washington and the Willamette Valley, and even as to what the amounts are across the Cascades. It's likely going to be measured in multiple feet, but as to how much that is, we don't really know yet, so there's definitely some uncertainty going on here. And a good way to look at this here is the temperature cross-section here. We're looking at this on the European model. This is SeaTac Airport, and this line right here, where we go from this reddish purple to this greenish whitish color there, that is freezing. So you can see how SeaTac Airport barely reaches freezing next week there, and that is just showing how marginal of a setup this is for lowland snow. However, when we compare this to Payne Field there, you can see that it reaches freezing a little bit more than SeaTac Airport, and you compare that to Bellingham, where you're below freezing for quite a while. This just shows you where the snow chances are a little bit more marginal and where they are not. So you can see places like Bellingham, exposed to that outflow from the Fraser River Valley, which brings you that cold air, has a lot higher chance potentially of getting some snow because they're below freezing for longer. But this is obviously something that's been changing a lot between even just different runs of the forecast model throughout the day, and it's flip-flopping back and forth. So there's obviously a lot of uncertainty going on with this setup, but I tried to give you there a decent look at what could happen. That a couple of inches of snow across the region, not out of the question. Higher amounts, also not out of the question. We got to get through this first storm first with the rain and mountain snow before we're able to get an even better idea of what is going to happen next week with that potential snow from Sunday onward. So definitely stay tuned. Please subscribe, like, and share these videos. That is the best way for you to stay tuned to get more information about this upcoming setup. I would love to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this winter. I'm at almost 900 right now, so please be sure to subscribe and share. And for more updates, please follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter or X, and on the Western Washington Weather Facebook group. I give some long-form updates on here sometimes, so that is a good place to follow as well. And the links to all of these are in the description below. So stay tuned for some more information on this setup coming up, and I will talk to you all in the coming days.